Hey traders, this is Taylor with Top Pick Trading, and I want to give you guys a bar by bar today. So let's get started. You can see you come in and it's about 8 a.m. Eastern on this bar here. So it looks like we've pretty much been downhill all morning. So I'd try to find some channel that fits that, and that looks pretty decent. And let's go from here. Get a first entry, continues lower. Looks like this maybe has an overshoot. Keeps pushing lower, really far from the EMA. It looks like maybe this channel starts from a different location, maybe even here, and this actually looks like it fits pretty well. And it's still chopping lower. Just waiting for prices to come back to the EMA. Still pushing lower. Oops, sorry. Keep expanding this. Still fits pretty well. And wow, this channel is really holding. It's so far from the EMA, so there's really nothing to take in here. And let me just expand this a little bit. So now we get a first entry short by a tick. It's really just choppy here. Draw your congestion. Get a second entry, but no setup, kind of far from the EMA, and still really just congested. Get another first entry. This could be seen as a triple test, but for me it's not so clear. I'd hold off on this trade. Now we get a lower high, second entry short. Still a little bit congested, but this is clearly like a fourth test now, and it's off the EMA, and we're still expecting a retest on this blue downtrend. You get a perfect bar. I don't like that the doji's there. I wish this would have been a bullish bar a little bit higher into the EMA. But overall, I like this trade. Pretty small risk too, 7 ticks. And you can expect you'll get a retest at least to this support level, so about 2.5 points. And yep, you would have gotten the scalp there for the full 4 if you're going for that target. So now we've got a break and new low. Got a micro uptrend working here. It gets another leg to a new low, so now we've got 2 legs to a new low. And now we are at the open. Got a second entry long, but this has been way too bearish. Come back to the EMA with 3 pretty strong bullish bars. We're just waiting to see what happens at the EMA. This looks like maybe it has a break a new high. It does. Just chopping. Not really a setup here. Clearly looks like more congestion now. And you get like this lower high here, but it's so sideways. And now you get another lower high. Still just so sideways. I don't think I can take that. Drops down, you would have gotten the scalp. Continuing lower, looks like maybe a bigger channel. Break of the trend line. Couple strong bullish bars up above the EMA. This is big enough now. I'm going to redraw this. Looks pretty valid. Maybe a slight close outside here if we draw it like this. Kind of keep it in mind. Now we get a first entry short right at this support level from earlier. And breaks up above. Now we get a second entry short. Staying at the support level, pretty far from the EMA. But this was a pretty strong move, and if I'm going to go for 4 points like I normally do, I don't have enough room to the EMA here, so I'm not going to mark this trade. Looks like it would have worked, probably. Now we've got a micro downtrend working. You can see pretty much since the open now, we had this huge down move. EMA held, and now, really since the open, it's just kind of chopping sideways. Bounce here pretty strongly. I'm going to redraw this as a bigger range now. Maybe something like this. Get 3 bullish bars. First entry short. Get a second entry long now, but kind of just in the upper half of this range. It's not really clear. We have big down, big up, big down, and maybe big up now, but now we get a second entry short, but same mid-range. Doesn't trigger anyway. Chops higher. Now we've got 2 legs up at the resistance level, but not really a good bar. Now we push back below the EMA. Get a first entry long, no setup there, but we are making higher highs, higher lows consistently now. You can see here, here, and here. Now we get a big bearish bar, but it's not really clear what's happening. And like I mentioned, the higher lows, so I'm leery of this. Chop sideways, no setup. Get a lower high, but so congested. Now we get like a failed second entry. Not really by the count, technically a failed second entry long, but either way, right in the middle of this range. Look how sideways we're going. If you're trying to take a failure, I don't think this is going to lure in too many longs. And it does trigger, and it looks like maybe you would have gotten a small scalp, and then you would have been stopped out here. And then at this point, that's our third touch for this trend line, possibly. A little wide, so I'm remaining kind of skeptical of this. Get a break from it. First entry short. Move back down to the support levels. We get a doji bar right at the support, just the first entry. You get this lower high here. I shouldn't have clicked ahead. We're coming off the support. It is a small risk, so if you're scalping back to here, it's a potential, but for me, since we've clearly been bouncing here each time, and this looks like it has played out, I'm not going to take this trade. It would have worked for a decent sized scalp. Now we get like a little failed breakout. This one's more tempting. It's a second entry long, and it's closer to where we bounced below the range right here earlier. Really strong bar. Once again, because I'm going for 4 points, I don't have quite enough room here to consider this. Maybe for a smaller scalp. I'm not going to mark it though. Push back into the EMA and it temporarily holds. Maybe we do push lower. Let's see. It breaks above on a higher low. No setup there really. We just turned right here and now we're near the middle of the range and there's some wick on the upper side of that bar. And now we actually get a failed second entry short. Could confirm a trend line, and it looks like, draw that a little clearer. It looks like it does. Problem is it got really, it closed almost back into the middle again. This one's really tempting. There's probably some shorts that got lured in that saw that we were making these lower lows. You can see though that they started getting squeezed and we were bouncing off this support line. So if you're aggressive, maybe you take that. I don't know if you can bank on it, getting a larger target. You do have 4 points to the upper side of the range. I'll mark this aggressive. Maybe you want to try to use a limit order. And it looks like this is either wider or we have an overshoot. And it looks like maybe you would have gotten your 4 point scalp there. Come back to the EMA. Looks like a break from the channel. Just a first entry. Breaks out of the channel. We have a new high now. Come back to the EMA. 3 strong bearish bars. We get just a first entry here. Really good bar, but with those 3 bearish bars, and notice how it kind of broke back down into this range. It didn't firmly bounce at the clear highs here. It's a little bit below it. And this looks like it has played out. Maybe you can expand it. Let's see if I can. It looks too loose, personally. So I'm going to play this as a break and new high. And this is just, regardless, it's a first entry with 3 bearish bars. So I'm not taking this trade. Get 3 strong bullish bars now. So it looks like it would have worked, but you don't know that. Let me draw this a little wider. That looks decent. A little loose, but we'll see. really strong, so a lot of the times you can, based on the strength of it, you can widen it a little bit. Looks like maybe there's a close outside. So far from the EMA, you get a lower high, but no good bar. We do come back to the EMA now. And you get a first entry. You bounce here, so maybe there's a... Actually, I'm sorry, you get a second entry here. And this could be just widened ever so slightly more. Maybe this is still valid without a break in new high. So you get that second entry long, but there is 3 strong bearish bars. And this really looks like one leg back to me. But I would start looking for something wider. That looks decent. Testing a couple. Yeah, this one looks pretty good for now. I'd be watching this. So yeah, you get the first entry there. And you come back to the EMA, drop below the EMA. Get a second entry, but no bar there. This is the first break of this. And then at this point, I'd expect a retest on this bigger uptrend. Higher low, but way too high. And now we've got the new high from the bigger uptrend. Just chopping so far above the EMA, nothing to take there. Now we've got the break, 2 legs up. Get a first entry long. Get a second entry long. It's all played out. EMA still looks like to be somewhat holding. Let's start looking just in case. Now that actually looks pretty good as a spike in channel. And the reason I'm looking for a spike in channel in this case is because the EMA, if we break above here, is still holding. You're not really getting strong sell-offs of this as if this was a break in 2 legs up. So, and to be quite frank, you also would have had Mack's mid-morning chart if you are viewing that. He had the spike in channel from the very beginning. So yeah, at this point I would draw what he had, and for those other reasons, the EMA holding after breaking 2 legs up, we can start to consider that it may be a spike in channel. So you get the second entry long. Unfortunately, the bar's a little neutral for me. If you had a better bar here, I'd probably take it. I'm going to mark it orange, which means basically good contextual setup, but bar's just not quite good enough. And it would have rallied higher again. Get a first entry, second entry, but no good bar there, no setup. Drop below, you get a break from the spiking channel, and it could be that yet again you see this is kind of cutting through a little tight, and the highs don't fit well. So at this point, this actually looks really nice. Slightly wider version of the spiking channel, so I'd still consider this valid. This is the second entry long right here. This one's really tempting, but it's below the EMA, and this could just be a little bit wider without a break. So I'm not going to take this. And we keep widening this channel, so I'm a little, even though this looks really valid, I'm a little skeptical in real time. So I'm not going to take this trade. Doesn't trigger anyway. Breaks below, so no setup. Slightly widen again. It's a traveling channel. Still fits really well. And just for clarity, I'm going to delete that so we can see it better. And now you can really see that this is clearly a spike up, and we are in this channel. So definitely this looks valid now. Micro uptrend here. EMA still holding. We did break below here, but not by much. So only thinking longs. Not even a first entry. And now with this big bearish bar, makes me think we probably definitely are closing outside this time. Yeah, definitely now. So yeah, you get, this looks to be really at this support level. But it's just a first entry. There's 2 big bearish bars are there, so I'm skeptical of this. I'm not going to take that trade. It does come back to the EMA. You would have gotten a decent sized scalp. Now you get a higher low. Fortunately, doji bar kind of close to the EMA. This one's pretty tempting, but I wish it formed a little lower and with a better bar. So we are expecting a retest of this spike in channel, but for those reasons, I'm not going to mark that one. Dropping sideways, it looks like a congestion area now. We get this little short here, but I'm expecting a retest, so I'm not taking a short. Now we get like another test of this level. Maybe it's like this. Get a higher low, but the bars are just not all that great, and it's kind of stacking up. Now, this one is more tempting. It's still so sideways, but it's kind of like a failed second entry short and like a higher low. Fortunately, it closes so close to the highs of this little congestion, and but we are expecting a retest of this green spike in channel. So that one's tempting, but big risk. Kind of feels like trading a little bit of a breakout, but the context of the larger picture is on our side. So if you're really aggressive, maybe you take that one. I probably would lay off. It's just so sideways there. Would have worked. Looks like we retested the highs now. Get a higher low, but retest is over with potentially, and it's just like a first entry, and it kind of moved far to consider that a higher low. So I'm not taking that. Now we've got, like kind of like two legs down. Now this one's interesting. Once again, a little sideways with the doji bar, bouncing right at this support level. Second entry long. We just blew through this, so maybe it's a little bit bigger range. I think this one is also aggressive. I personally didn't take this in real time, but it was pretty tempting. I'll mark that just because this is bounced, you know. This is a little lower here, but basically 1, 2. This is almost like a bounce. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is like the 10th time on that second entry long with a perfect bar. Just hate that doji's there. Unfortunately, that doji really takes away from the trade. But I'll still mark it aggressive. You get a higher low, a little bit of stem on that. It does confirm the second entry long, but now we're kind of getting near the highs again, so I'll lay off on marking that one. Looks like either trade probably would have worked. Definitely a uptrend working now. I drew it a little bit late. Looks like maybe a little bit of a close outside, a new high. Expand this a little bit. And now this does look clearly like a midline here working, so this range seems to be valid. And really this is close enough to where I'd almost just expand it, and that still looks pretty nice. These support levels are kind of more like a small range. You can see like it was bouncing a little lower, and then slowly it was kind of forming higher and higher and higher. And this still clearly looks kind of like the same support level, so I'd play it like this for now. Now we get a first entry long, second entry long. If it breaks below, it's a failure, but it's a pretty strong move up, and we don't know if the EMA is going to hold after this, so I wouldn't take this failure or the second entry long because right into this resistance area, but also it's kind of an unknown, like I said, because the EMA may hold, so I wouldn't take the short either. It looks like the short would have ticked you in and immediately stopped you out. Now we reject off of that resistance level, and that's why you just want to avoid this area because it's like maybe this. You want to avoid this area because it's two unknowns. We've got potential support here and resistance here, so it's just a tight little congestion area potentially, and that's what it ends up being. Bouncing, new low. Now this looks to be potentially a little bit of like a wider downtrend. The lows fit really well. We got a bounce at the midline, but we're still just chopping. So we got a first entry short, a second entry short, right in this area. It's a good bar there. I'd probably wait. This is like a triple test once, twice. You could almost call this a couple touches, and then 3 times. We bounce at the midline, and you know we traded up into this range. So I'd wait on a lower high here. and we get the lower high. Finishes with some stem. If you took this on the engulfing bar, I wouldn't blame you, so I'll mark this one aggressive. Really just trading this range here. Potentially this golden downtrend needs a retest. It breaks to a new low. Get a little long bar here, instantly stops out, breaks below the range, bounces back. No setup or no bar there. Strong micro trend working up. Let's clearly see this range is still holding for now. Now we break out of the highs, the high side of it. Get a first entry long. Second entry long is really sideways. It feels a little bit like trading a breakout. It is confirming this upper resistance, now acting as support if it bounces here, but we're not really sure yet because of the congestion and we're not back at the EMA. So if this triggers, I'm probably not going to take it. And it looks like it would have exploded to a new high, but we don't know that at the time. And now I draw this just in case, if we can come up to this upper side of the trend line. And also I'd start looking for a measured move of the range, which we're getting pretty close to. We get another new high there, first entry. Trend line looked like it held. It didn't touch the upper side, so this may not be valid, but it did get 3 touches that somewhat held on this lower side, so we'll keep it there. This is technically a failed second entry long here, but so sideways, so no way to take that. Would have stopped out immediately and ran to another new high. So it looks like this potentially was valid because we got the break and retest right up to this measured move. Get a first entry, no setup there. We get a lower high, but it's a little sideways. Now we're not all that far from the EMA. Get a failed second entry long if this triggers below, but 2 dojis stacked right at the EMA, and we got a little obvious congestion area that we may be bouncing at the highs of. So no setup here. Drop below the EMA. No trigger on anything. Just congestion. Now we're dropping below this. Looks like maybe. Yeah, that looks nice right there. Push up into the EMA, push strongly above the EMA. It looks like maybe it bounced near these range lows, or range highs, sorry. Get a first entry short, expecting a retest probably on this blue downtrend. First entry short gets the new low. Now we're bouncing at the support level. Get a first entry. Just now it's a first entry short. Now we're really just kind of chopping sideways, not really sure what's going to be happening here. You get like a higher low here, but once again, just big down, big up. We are making lower highs and lower lows, but just kind of unclear what's going to happen here. And to me, this probably looks too wide to draw. I don't like that. Bounce at the support. It's a second entry long, but bias is really unclear, just chopping up and down. Like maybe another downtrend here. Get a failed second entry long, back inside the range. This is now the second leg down, so this could just be like a retest leg. So I'm not taking this. Get a little higher low there. Dumps to a new low. So now it looks like clearly both of these legs have probably played out. We're just kind of chopping back in this range now. Pushes back to the EMA. Now we've got fairly strong little micro trend working up. And notice how we only made it back to the midline, so I'm thinking long now because we didn't push new low. And keep in mind though, throughout the overnight, we had this huge leg down. A lot of the times, Mack talks about this. This will correct, like from this move, correct 50 or 60% of the move, and then we'll try to make a second leg down. So keep that in mind. Looks like most of these uptrends are starting to play out. But we are bouncing in this midline, so like Mack says, you can't argue with it. Just play what you get, especially at a local level. But just be cognizant of the bigger picture here. We got the micro trend working. We get a first entry to a new high, so no setup there. Bounce again at that same little level. Looks like maybe a little tight congestion here. Now we bounce a third time. This is a triple test. Really good bar. The problem is for me, you got the three bearish bars back into the EMA. Looks like the uptrend has a break and 2 legs up. The bar is really great, and it's almost like it retests this range high. This is a really tempting trade. I wanted a second entry in real time. Personally, I didn't take this trade. Really tempting though. But for the reasons I mentioned, this playing out, the bigger picture for the day, and this made a lower low, 3 bearish bars. I didn't take this. I'm not going to mark it. It's close just because of how good the setup and signal bar are though. Fortunately, don't get a setup for a second entry long, no trigger above. And now we've got almost like the second leg here, so we can draw this. Breaks, first entry, second entry, but really stacked and sideways, so I'm not taking this. Looks like it may work. Nope, it drops below strongly. You can see we're getting some clear resistance near this high. The measured move of the range. We do bounce at that range high again though, from the original range high here. We get 3 strong bullish bars. And you can see this is pretty unclear. I mean, you can tell we have a bullish bias here, but it's pretty unclear what's happening. And we push all the way back up to the range high. I'm sorry, the measured move high. Get a second leg here. This almost looks like, oops, another range in and of itself. That looks pretty decent there. It dumps. You get a lower high, but this looks like big up, big down. I can't trust the lower high that's closing that low. This is pretty bearish, so we're keeping it in mind. Yep, start going sideways. And we get like a just a first entry short in the congestion area. The bar is tempting, but it looks like the micro trend has a break a new low right in the middle of this range. Fortunately, I don't think I can take that. You can see it drops down to the range low, the blue range low that is. We push through the support of it, and we're back inside the bigger range. I think maybe a downtrend here. And then at this point, a little confusing with the 2 ranges. I'd probably just draw this one big range, and that actually looks pretty good. You can see there, support clear, midline holds, got some clear range highs here. And we are watching this downtrend, and this is pushed really strongly, and if you look at the time, pretty quickly too compared to a lot of this other stuff. Still holding. We do bounce at the range low. We come strongly back to the EMA. I'd be cognizant of a potential bigger channel here now. Let's see. Like this. And the EMA holds, I'm starting to think short. And I'm starting to think maybe we're getting that second leg from the big downtrend that I mentioned. So we get a first entry short. Drop all the way back down the support, no setup. Now, this smaller downtrend has a retest, but we could be in this bigger downtrend, so let's see. Looks like if we expand slightly, it holds. Tighten this up a little bit at the top. We get, this looks like a double bottom, so we get a first entry. Looks like the smallest close outside, but may be ignored. Now we get a second entry, but wow, closes right into the low, massive bar. It's not really even like a failure. Fortunately, no way to take that on this chart. If you got a good bar here that closed near the EMA, it'd be like a little triple test. First close outside and a second entry short. So I'd love it, but unfortunately our chart just doesn't set up. Pushing lower. so far from the EMA, so no setup here. Maybe this big bar spike and channel, that actually looks pretty good. And this may have played out, but let's keep watching. We get a first entry here, but so far from the EMA. And now notice the strength in this leg. This almost at that point, since this corrected so much, you can just treat this as a double bottom. And so I just call this a first entry. Push back to the EMA. Now this looks like 2 legs up. We're back at the original trend line. It did have a break, but you know, take that for what it is. It may be ignored. This happened really quickly, so sometimes these quick breaks can be ignored. And maybe there's another variant of this that's like another spike in channel or something. That actually fits pretty well off the lows as well. So I'd be cognizant of that. But regardless of the bigger price action here, this spike and blue channel down needs a retest, and we're getting 2 legs back. And boom, you get a second entry short with a perfect bar right off the EMA. And if you had the other downtrend, it would be right at the original downtrend line. So I'm taking this all day, every day, twice on Sunday. And you can see there, easily get a scalp. And it runs way lower. And that pretty much ends the day. It's shaded now, so that's 3:30. So if you're patient all day, there's a lot of iffies in here that are decent. But if you just waited till a couple minutes before 3:30, you get an absolute give me. And really the trade of the day. Let's see how far. Yeah, so I went another. You just held it to the close even. 16 points. If you just held it to the opening price, which is this yellow line, that's 12 points. So quick, easy move. 4 minutes, you can see there. So yeah. Looks like prices started to make. Let me change this back. Looks like prices tried to make that second leg. But we didn't quite get there. Got within. Just ran out of time, it looks like. To the close, really, 20 points still. So yeah, you had pretty much the strong leg down through the overnight. Little range, breaking a couple legs down, fall over into this range. Bounce out of here. We got a spike in channel that could have been drawn as a regular channel at first. A couple different variations of this. Honestly, like I mentioned, use Mack's mid-morning chart to help you. When that came out, I mean, pretty valuable information. He had this spike in channel right, like on this swing somehow. Like it's pretty incredible sometimes how he finds these channels so early on. But anyway, yeah, you get the spike in channel. We roll over into another range. Push up, it appears to end up being 2-tiered. We correct what looks like maybe 60-ish%, a little more than 60% of the down move. And then finally we start that second leg. Gets really bearish really quickly. Break out of this range, get just a gimme second entry short. So yeah, not a bad day overall. Got a little weird through this area here, but you had the second entry short, lower high. You had the failed second entry long. Second entry long, questionable bar. Some triple tests, failed second entry short off this support level. A couple more iffy ones in here, but I think this one's okay. You get the second entry long also off support. You get the lower high off clear resistance up here. Then not much through here until the obvious second entry short right at the EMA there. And also kind of like a double test as well. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this bar by bar. Pretty long. We're coming in on 35 minutes, so try to go through that as quickly as I could, but a lot to explain today. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed the trade selections. And yeah, I think tomorrow may be a little slow because of President's Day on Monday, typically the day before a holiday or on a holiday weekend. Prices are slow, so hope you guys caught some today. And just be patient tomorrow. And Monday I wouldn't even trade. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to like and subscribe. And thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.